T3 is in the building. Welcome back. T3 is in the house on a very thankful Thursday. I'm your guy, Mr. U. Herb is in the house. Shane's in the house. Fellas, how's it going tonight?
We doing good.
It is good. I had one of those open tabs playing in my ear. I was like, what is going on? The show is messing.
Whoa. We don't need that kind of stuff. We have enough mishaps in live podcasting. We need nothing extra. All right, we're going to have
self-created mishaps.
Yeah. We're glad you guys are good. For all you guys that are listening to our show, thanks for joining us in this holiday season. We're going to talk football until the wheels fall off. That's what we do. I had that thought that we don't want to have at this time of year. Like, oh my goodness, football's almost over. Immediately, I have a lump in my throat and in the pit of my stomach. Like, oh my God. I'm going to talk about other stuff. Better to think. But anyways, a lot going on that we're going to talk about. We're going to jump into a lot of stuff. Heard that Bill Belichick trying to get a job in college. Wow. I guess if you can't get a job in NFL, maybe college is not such a bad idea. That's his only option. I don't think he wants to commentate. I think he wants to still, he got his girlfriend. He still has some juices flowing, clearly. So he wants to kind of stay virile and alive, and commentating probably is more sedate than Bill Belichick wants to have in his life right now. So he wants to have the energy and the passion and the fire that goes with a coaching job. So maybe college is not that bad. I heard about North Carolina being his preferred option where he's interviewed at. What do you guys hear? Anything different, or do you even like the idea that he's thinking about coming back to the coaching?
I think it's a terrible idea for him. I think like all these, just because we talked about this before, all kind of like the older coaches, they're not used to this new era of NIL. Like Bill Belichick's going to coach hard. And what it is now you coach hard and kids just go, that's fine, I'm just going to transfer, and you got to recruit the players that are on your team, recruit other players to come in. Half of them, it's, really just about the money. They don't care what you're teaching them. I just don't think he's ready for that style. So it's not him as coaching. I just don't think in this new age, like that he really wants to have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis.
And before Shane jumps in with his comment, I want to ask you a question. Because I know that we see this stuff about NIL a lot, and we talk about it on all of our shows, and we discuss it a lot. And I personally feel like we kind of get general as opposed to specifics. We kind of like, overarching NIL issue that we're having. But do you feel like Bill Belichick would be able to be a standard bearer even in the NIL era, where people who care about growing in their trade and learning how to play football the right way from somebody who is a multi-time champion? You don't think that they would receive that well and want to be a part of that?
No, not at all. Especially not at North Carolina. I don't think that's going to work in North Carolina either. But no, you see guys, they're all chasing the next paycheck. So it's not, I don't think that matters. It didn't work for Nick Saban. Towards the end of his tenure, it was still already guys were wanting to jump out for the bag. So I don't think it's going to be any different for him coming in.
Copy that. Shane, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with exactly what Herb said. The other thing, like Belichick is one of those guys that's never done.
Right.
Oh, man. Where'd your sound go, buddy?
Okay, I thought it was just me for a second, but the last part of his thing, what he's saying was like,
and not being able to have that team. Sorry, yeah, not being able to have that team and recruit.
Yeah,
not being able to have a college team where you can say, okay, this is going to be my recruiting coordinator. They've been in this area. Like all the Belichick coaches are all above. Yes, you could get better coaching. Yes, you can get different coaching. But the college landscape is difficult to stay in. I think actually NIL has made it easier for NFL coaches because now it becomes more of a salary cap roster management where you have to have somebody on your team that's figuring out how you're going to do that with players.
Okay.
But as Herb's seen, especially in Alabama, you can have a 5-star that's recruited and set, and they even have a great year, and somebody else is going to offer them more money. You know, you have Brian Kelly at LSU right now complaining that people are out paying LSU for players. Like, it's an arms race, and you're always going to be in that situation. The other thing that Herb really hit on without officially saying it is it's North Carolina. This is not a premier football team. If you're Belichick, I mean, you're going to take the chance on this. Why wouldn't you go for Ohio State or something like that, where at least you're going to have the resources behind you? You know, you're not going to have that at UNC. It's never going to be a football power. You've had some good players come from there, but, you know, why are you going to risk it?
Yeah.
I don't know unless you just suddenly develop a desire to teach. That's the only thing I can think of because that's as far away from where you would think he'd want to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't judge him. I don't know if he's thinking something. Maybe he's in a stage in his life where he wants to kind of mentor people and do that at a core level. So going to the NC may not be the first choice I have, but okay, if he's doing that, maybe it makes sense.
I mean, his son is the defensive coordinator at the University of Washington. And he has some other guys that were on that coaching staff that are now with his son at UW, like Sal Sinceri. And like, I think that those guys are probably going to tell him the same thing. Like, you know, this is not the world you want to get into. You know, I think from what I've seen, it looks like he enjoys doing the media and some of that stuff. And it's the same thing with Coach Saban. You know, West Virginia opens up. Everyone's coming after him to come back. Ren Baker, the athletic director at West Virginia, said, like, ask Nick Saban, hey, can I at least talk to, you know, the real decision maker, the missus? And Nick Saban said, I don't think I'm going to set you up for a loss if you try to go talk to the wife. So, I mean, if Nick Saban, probably one of the best college football coaches of all time, is finding that this isn't the place where he wants to be, and you know that he and Belichick are extremely close and talked throughout the time, you know, why would Belichick even do that? Like, I get it if you're doing it to, hey, I'm going to interview, we'll see what this is, but I can't imagine this is the end goal for him.
Yeah. And I also, on the back of that, with what he's saying about North Carolina, the thing there is, okay, you're not going to attract as many like 4 and 5 stars, right? So now you're getting more, you know, 3 stars, lower 4 stars, whatever. And you're doing kind of what you're talking about. You're teaching them. Well, at a place like North Carolina, that just means, hey, I get this 3-star. I coach him for a year or two. I get him up. He's at a great level. Now he's just getting poached by the bigger guys, and I got to start all over anyway. So it just doesn't seem like, you know, North Carolina is not like a destination school. You're not thinking, all right, this is the last place. If I go to another, you know, if I go to North Carolina for 2 years, in my junior year, I could transfer to one of the big guys and show out that year. That's probably a better path to more money and to the NFL. So it just doesn't seem like, if I've never coached college, this is where I want to start, you know. Yeah. Not like the Ohio States, I guess. And I'm thinking of that because, you know, I feel like they're going to fire their coach soon. So I'm using them as an example. Yes. But I think they should, but that's a whole nother conversation. You know, it's not like those big premier jobs are coming open. So you do have to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's just North Carolina is not where I would think, you know, multiple Super Bowl winner would want to get into. Not in this day and age. In the past, oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, before NIL, before transfer portal in North Carolina, would be great because he would get several guys who aren't, like I said, 5 stars. And he'd be like, look, if I get this group right here, I know I'm going to have these guys for 3 to 4 years. I can build something here. Nowadays, it's like, man, I hope I win this year. Or it's going to be terrible.
Maybe he wants to just live in North Carolina. I don't know, man. We got some folks that jumped in to say hi to us. West Coast Winds in the house. Good evening, West Coast. Love your support. You everywhere I am, you're at. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Roger's in the house. He's one half of the Herb and Rog podcast, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. CST. Good evening, sir, and Roll Tide back at you, baby. So let's go ahead and start with our poll question for for the night, and then we can get into the rivalry week and hear what you guys saw during rivalry week. I'm sure there was a whole bunch to talk about, but we can discuss whatever games jumped out for you. And then we're probably going to ease into this segue to this flag planning situation because that was kind of the highlight, it seems like, of rivalry week. So we'll get into that. But our poll question was, and I thought I wrote it down, forgive me, but it was in regard to tanking. Do you think tanking is acceptable under any circumstance? I think the last time that I checked, I had the numbers. There wasn't a wipeout. It was almost pretty overwhelming that it was people saying that tanking is not acceptable in any circumstance. It was probably a high percentage, like 70-something% of the vote, which is like close. 66% of the vote. Some folks chimed in real late in the game saying sometimes, about 14%, and 19% said yes, it's acceptable under certain circumstances. Personally speaking, how do you see it? Tanking acceptable, yes or no, or sometimes too? How do you guys feel about it?
I think it's fine in certain circumstances. I think about the Dallas Mavericks. I think 2 to 3 years ago, I think they had about 3 to 4 games to play. If they won them all, they get like the 10th seed, which would, by the way, is getting into the playoffs and something they had to make up that wasn't even here like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's barely making the playoffs. But they would lose their top 12 protected draft pick, or they sit a couple stars, they lose that pick, they get fined a little bit, but Cubans got money. They get their number 12 pick, turns into Lively, who's been a key part of their resurgence, and then they make the conference finals the next year. It's like, I see the instances. I understand as fans, you want your team to be competitive every time out, but sometimes there's a spot where, NFL wise, if I lose one more game and lose 3 spots in the draft and I go from like 2 to 5, is it really worth it? No. So long-term health, I think tanking's okay.
Okay. Shane.
Yeah. I think Herb brings up a great point too about the different leagues. Tanking in the NBA, sometimes that can mean that you're losing, 30 games. In the NFL, where, the example that he gave, if you drop, 2 games, we've talked about how the way the draft works in the NFL, if you make the playoffs every year, but you don't find another way to get draft picks, there's going to hit a point where you become terrible again, because you can't replenish at the same level as everybody else is.
Yep.
I'm against tanking. I would rather you go out there and play with what you got. But I also understand if we're going to move on from our quarterback or we're moving on from somebody else, then you also need to evaluate that other person. Now, a lot of times that also comes out looking like tanking because you're not playing your number one. You're playing the next level down. And you've seen how it can tear apart locker rooms where they're like, hey, look, we obviously know that that's the number one quarterback. You can't look at the Giants right now. Not only did you put the third stringer in. Yeah, I tried not to take a shot at the Giants, but they're giving you a great example.
Indeed.
That's where you worry about things like that. Where do you lose an entire team because you made a business decision that's not going to help everybody?
Right.
That's where I think the tanking really comes in, and it's how the team takes it. If you take the NBA where Philadelphia decided Drew Morley was like, we're just going to give up and we're going to go and make a draft pick and we're hoping that he's going to be able to carry us. That's when you're like, look, we've told the team we're not going hard. We're not going to put, and look at where they are now. They haven't gotten a championship out of it. And now that same player is now, enemy number 1 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's different, man. These teams, especially in the NBA, they take, it might even be the Sixers tank for, what did the one that tanked for 4 years and got one number 1 pick? It's not the same. Even with the Astros and the Cubs, totally different in Major League Baseball. It doesn't always equate to the same thing. I think the NFL draft system incentivizes this, and it's like the NFL picks to have a high trade value and stuff, but one player can't fix a team. You have to know that, that one player can't fix a team. And I think my question is there's the inherent challenge in tanking for NFL anyway, because 16 games, theoretically speaking, because I know it's more than 16 now, but 16 games isn't a big sample size to figure out whether this guy is going to be part of the future or not. You know, you need more time than that. But I just wonder about it because teams like the Jets, I think they were. It's been 13 seasons since they've been in anything relevant. I think the 2010 AFC title game, I think it was. The Broncos and the Panthers, 8 and 6 seasons respectively, where they've been out of the playoffs, going to the Falcons, Washington, Indiana, Chicago, goes on and on. And a lot of these teams have tried the tanking thing for a long time. I think the Bears, whether they admit it or not, they were tanking for a while, you know, and they're not the only team that was doing that. And look what they got for it. I mean, right now they probably have the most stacked team they had in quite a while, but look at all of the inherent problems they still have, you know, outside of the coach, which they kind of solved it by trading in Eberflus for Thomas Brown to see how that turns out. But I mean, for the most part, tanking doesn't seem to be the best solution. Is there any way in you guys' mind where you feel like, because for me, to share my point, I'm against tanking. I know that it solves some problems under certain circumstances, but I'm kind of against it. I'd rather you go ahead and just play. Now I know this year, if I said that in my Giants Twitter, I know what I would hear. I know what kind of response to come back to me, you know. But honestly, there's no guarantee that number one guy is it. How many number one quarterbacks have we seen, or number one players? Period. Tops in the draft. They came out and they didn't do what you thought. They didn't play like number one players, and it didn't. How many times did that happen? We're not talking about that stuff, but it happens a lot. It's not like, oh, every 10 years we see it. No, man, it happens way more often than that. So it's not a guarantee anyway. You know, so it's like I just rather you just play, get better, learn, figure some stuff out, and if it doesn't net you in a playoff run, well, you guys got confidence. You guys are like, okay, next year we're so close now. We can do just tweak this, adjust this, add this here, and we'll be a little better. At least they have some confidence. These guys tanking now. They like you said, Shane, they fighting each other in the locker room, and they kind of like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna just give up. We're gonna just quit. And it's like these guys. I know they got a lot of money in their pockets and in their bank accounts, but they're still men, still football players with pride. They got a little ego. It's like, man, you can go ahead and just lose on purpose every week. It's very, very strange. But all right, so Lady Alfred's in the house. Hey, lady, good evening. Carissa Johnson, what's up, KJ? In the house. All right. So, any thoughts about this, man? I mean, I know you mentioned the Giants. I know that, I guess, technically, people think we should be doing this. I spoke about it a little early in the season. I felt like there was, because of the margin of victory in the games that we lost, it was too small. So what that told me that even though we sucked in certain areas, especially in the secondary and some other areas, the O-line was better, but it wasn't good enough as we would have liked it to be, especially at center. I'm surprised by JMS, but that's another story. But we had the opportunity to win those games, and who knows what the competition would be if we had won those. So it's like you're a team that's tanking just so you can get a quarterback, really, not because you really need to tank. So it's like it doesn't. That's a really bad example to me of a team that should be tanking. I could think of some other ones that probably maybe need to think about it because of their financial woes and some other issues. But any of the thoughts on tanking? I mean, you've seen the poll. Do you agree with how it went, or do you think it was off the rails? Or
I think there's just a difference there, though, with like tanking and just being bad. You know, like I don't think the Giants were tanking at the beginning of this year. I think they were honestly saying, "Look, Daniel Jones, we're giving you one last shot," you know, and then we're cutting you out at a certain point. But I don't consider that tanking because they were already on the hook for him. You know, there's like the Spurs to get Wembanyama. They were tanking, like they were actively trading away draft assets. And then to one of your points in there, can one person change it? In basketball, yeah, you can. 1 of 5, if you're a phenomenal guy, like, you know, LeBron back in the day, you can change the franchise. In football, yeah, it's a lot tougher. And it's much tougher when I've got, 22 starters and like I'm trying to tank. Unless I'm pulling guys off the field, people have personal incentives. They have certain things. And you know how it is. If you run half speed at football, you're going to get hurt. So you can't do that. You can lollygag in basketball and tank and not get hurt on that court. Just avoid all contact. You can't do it on football because the linebacker starts coming off there a little bit short. Somebody's laying them out, on the way to a run or whatever, right? So I think it's different across sports. But I think sometimes what we see in football that we think is tanking, It's really just teams just being bad and trying to get a look at certain people.
What happens? Is there an example that comes to mind for you guys where somebody had enough football IQ to rebuild a team without having to tank? There got to be examples of it somewhere, but for some reason, when I was working on getting the show ready, I couldn't think of an example. But there got to be some examples of this, because this can't be the first time that this thought came to mind, where people just like, you know what, we need to rebuild this team, but we don't want to blow it all up. Are there examples that come to mind for you that where that's happened, even if it's not NFL? But I'm hoping you have an NFL example. But anything come to mind for you guys?
No, because most of the times you fire the coaching staff before you start blowing it up anyway. So it's you know what I mean? Because I was trying to think of like, what did the Texans do? But first thing they did, blow up the bring in a new coach and then make another trade, so they had the second and third pick. But they weren't tanking, huh?
That felt to me like that's a good example.
That is, but they also weren't tanking, because winning the last game of their season actually cost them a draft pick, a draft slot. So it's kind of an example of both things for you.
Yeah, they rebuilt that team, right?
Yeah.
They got Stingley in there. I'm thinking.
Yeah, Stroud and Will Anderson went back to back, but not that it mattered. It might have been a terrible mistake, but losing the last game of the season for them moved them from spot 1 to spot 2. It ended up working out perfectly, but there's a team that they weren't tanking. They were like, look, we're just bad. We're trying to win our games. We're just not good. So that's probably the closest example I'll come up with.
Yeah.
And sorry, Shane, I think I cut across you there.
Sorry, buddy.
No, I think that's a good example right there. The other one I thought that really didn't drop as bad but lost some games and went through a lot of coaching changes would be Philadelphia. They had Andy Reid. They've kind of transferred through a couple different quarterbacks, a couple different coaches, where they've had drop off and then they've been able to recoup. But that again is the big thing, is being able to keep your GM in place, so that they're the ones that are always pulling the string on that. Like you said, for the Texans, the team went out to win a game, I think, really to push Lovie Smith to say, like, hey, we understand where we're at, but he's done his job and we like him as a coach. And that truly could have hurt that team. Did it end up working out for them? Yes, but that's draft capital that they would have lost. I think what you hit on before, Herb, is probably the most important part of this conversation in the NFL. If you're going to tank in the NFL, you need to pull all your assets off the field, because if you don't, then someone is going to get hurt. Yeah. Because not only are there players on your teams that are incentive based, but if I'm an outside linebacker and I've got to get one more sack, and I know that I'm going against an offensive tackle that used to be bagging groceries the week before, I'm going to come hard at that quarterback, So do you lose assets because there's nobody else to protect you? And that's one thing that the NFL is built on, that they got into it with the bounty gate and things like that, but the NFL has always been competitive, and whether it's been distinguished by the league itself, people are always going to want to prove that they're the man, and they're going to go against people and try to be the dominant force. And anytime where you're like that, if you pull off a little bit, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right, so let's move off tanking a little bit. Let's jump right into this rivalry week. Boy, was that some fun. I'm glad I had the time to kind of watch some games and not have to do some other stuff, which is pretty normal on the weekend. So it was it was great to me. So a lot of games I watched games that I didn't even think were real rivalries. I'm like, they hate each other? Didn't make sense to me, but that's neither here nor there. But there were some good rivalry games out there, and a big to-do about flag planting. I think there was 4 or 5 instances where flag planting, or in Arizona State's case, pitchfork planting, created some problems on the field. I was talking to Herb offline. He was saying that his rivalry game had a fight on the sidelines, but it was pretty benign beside that. But what'd you see, Shane, in rivalry week, and what'd you like, didn't like? Overall thoughts.
I mean, like you said, Yusuf, for me, I love those games because there is a little bit extra involved in there. Herb, when you're talking to Alabama and Auburn, people's lives literally depend on that game. They've acted out. They've gone to jail over behaviors that have happened because of that game. With the flag planting, I think that the thing that I've said, across the board is if you don't want somebody to do that, then don't lose the game. Like I'm not for the, you had 60 minutes to beat them. Like, yeah, you lost the game. But the thing is, if you don't like it, there's other ways to handle that. I mean, do you really need to plant the flag, in the field to prove that you're the one? People keep notes on stuff like that, and you're going to end up having to pay the piper at some point. The one you mentioned, the Arizona with the pitchfork, that one was kind of surprising because the player that did that was on Arizona the year before. So, I mean, he was on the opposite side of that just 1 year ago with the transfer portal. And that's crazy. But I mean, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm more angry at Ryan Day and Chip Kelly for having your worst coaching game against the one team that you needed to beat. What's your shot at them? What are you going to say to them about that? It's the same thing. Like, if you're Dabo Sweeney, you're upset that South Carolina, like, if you didn't know that their quarterback was the main offensive weapon for them that has pulled the last 5 games out for them, that's on you. That's not on your players to be the one that didn't know this. Like, come on.
Yeah,
I don't feel bad for, and then the coaches that come in and complain about that, like that's ridiculous for me to hear that, because you're not being honest, because that in that locker room before that game started, you were telling them you're going to kill those guys.
Yeah.
Like the one thing I give credit for, and I don't know if you guys got a chance to see this, but Dan Lanning, who's now the head coach at Oregon, the number 1 team in the nation, he does not play around with this. He wants his guys to actively hate the other team. And against Washington at halftime, he took a UW helmet, smashed it with a sledgehammer, and had his guys jacked up, and they were already up by 40 points.
Yeah. You remember that's how he got famous with the Colorado clip from last year. Lanning is that kind of guy.
He went after Deion and said, they're all about Hollywood and we're about winning games.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was kind of a shot at Deion that didn't need to be happening, but
we talked about that.
Yeah. I honestly think that's kind of part of who Lanning is, though. I think that could have been anybody. That could have been you across there, Shane, and be like, we've never liked Shane and his snazzy outfits and how well dressed he is all the time. Forget that guy. I think Lanning is going to use whatever. And then I guarantee he didn't think a thing about Deion after that game. You know what I mean? So
no.
I mean, me personally,
and that's what I like, that he's the same person every single day.
Yeah, I do. But one of my favorite points in there, man, is this is rivalry week. So I always say this, like last year, Auburn lost to like New Mexico State right before they played Alabama, right? Terrible game for them, right? And then they came out and gave us the game of our life, had to have a miracle. And people are like, oh, why? I was like, that's because they're already looking forward to the rivalry game. Especially if you have a cupcake the week before, you are absolutely looking forward to that game. So there is no excuse to come out flat in the rivalry game. This should be like your Super Bowl, especially if you're having a bad season. You should definitely come out strong for it. So
yeah. I mean, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, man, but I mean, the flag plan doesn't do anything for me. As a fan, I don't feel different. I don't feel more spiced up because planting the flag.
Yeah,
I think I'm more concerned about you winning the game, especially if this is a rivalry. I want you to win the game and do it in a way where there's no question about how it got done. It was you took care of business. Yeah. That's all I care about. So the flag thing, that seems to be for other people. But we hear some other coaches whose names escape me now, but there's about 2 or 3 of them. I think Sarkisian is one. And some other ones, and they're saying that they're gonna not so much outlaw. I guess they're saying, you know what, we're not having that happen anymore. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be interesting to see that happen. I mean, if you're gonna solve it, that's where you solve it at, because it's not gonna be on the players on the field or the so-called captains. I don't know how involved they were, but it's gonna have to start with the coaching and say, you know what, we're not having this anymore. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make you more dominant because you put the flag. To me, I guess it's not really as relevant to me. We got a comment coming in here regarding this from Roger, said flag planting is classless. and unnecessary, but I absolutely love it. Hope to see more of it next year. Bottom line, win your game and protect your turf. Fair enough.
And if you do go to plant the flag and you get walloped, that's on you. That was your fault for starting the fight. So I've like whatever happens after that point happens. You can't go out there and plan and expect everybody just to be like, oh, hey, sir, can you please not do that? So me personally, after the game's over, I'm already flipped to the next channel. So I honestly don't care until like SportsCenter makes me care. Like, oh, here you go. Or whatever channel I'm watching and they cut back in because I don't know the last time I actually watched SportsCenter. But I don't care. I want you to win the game and then I'm on to the next thing anyway.
I saw it in highlights. I didn't even know. I mean, people talking about is flag planting a tradition or a sign of respect? Sign of disrespect? I don't know. It's not that big a deal. You win the game. That's all real fans are going to remember. You know, all the fighting
and all that we care about. To be honest,
yeah. What do you want to happen? Have guys out here with bloody noses and black eyes? How is that good? I'm saying just play the game. If you didn't win, hit the lockers, and I don't know if you guys are going to talk about it, have a debriefing. I don't know how that works, but have a little talk, encourage the guys for the next game or the next season, and move on with your life. Or congratulations, you go to the draft, whatever it is, and move on. See how they're fighting? It's a bad look. I feel like if you think about it, and that's your last game, and NFL coaches are watching, do you think that goes over good? Because they're scouting and evaluating stuff, and they're out here to see you play, and you out here fighting somebody with a flag, but in the game, you were invisible. Good thing or no? So there's a whole lot of factors to think about that I don't think they've been thinking about. Your boy Baker Mayfield has some comments, and he's kind of notorious. He may have been the one that kind of started this whole thing. He's saying, in short, that OU and Texas does it every time they play, which is probably true. It's not anything special. You take your L and you move on. They had incidences at Michigan and OSU, Florida and Florida State, Arizona State, NC and NC State. I think I'm missing at least another one, but they handed out a big $100K fine to both Michigan and OSU. Florida coach Billy Napier, he apologized publicly for the display. I don't know how much he really meant it, but oh boy. But it's just, yeah, it's a little bit disrespectful, but at the end of the day, it's like, really, what are we talking about here? Do we have to have this? Just win the game. All them guys were fighting against the Michigan players. Sadly, they were invisible during the game. Mm-hmm. You couldn't find them, but they were out there throwing blows and whatnot, and guys that work on a staff tackling, I don't know who they were, other staffers or bystanders, or I don't know who they were. They were in plain clothes. I'm like, this is what we're doing? This is just marring the whole situation here. And I don't know if it's just a flag or just people who are not taking the loss well, or a lack of coaching or lack of sportsmanship, maybe a little bit of everything. But what else do you have in regards to this? If not, we'll move on to our next topic for tonight. What do you guys got?
I think you mentioned an important thing with their use of, though. Like, this is not a new scenario. And the NCAA, like they always do, lets things happen until it becomes a media, and then they don't want the image that they're incorrect, even though the NCAA is a, household of corruption, that they're worried about this flag planting scenario. The thing that pops up to me, though, is you have somebody like Jack Sawyer for Ohio State. He went to Ohio State his freshman year. He said, look, we're going to change this around. I'm at Ohio State. We're never going to lose to Michigan. 4 years in a row, he's lost to Michigan. The winning touchdown, they ran right over the top of him to make a point that they were going over the top of him. If you have a problem with it, stop it. Like, it's not like, and Raj and Herb have seen this over and over again. Like, that Alabama-Auburn game is bloody. And you lose a game to Auburn, and the Alabama fans hate it. But what they say is, next year, it's not going to be War Eagle. It's going to be Roll Tide.
Yeah. And
so you recruit harder, and you get players that are angry about it, and you take something about it. If I'm Ohio State, the only one I'm mad at is everybody else on my team. Like, this was the year where we should have paid back Michigan, and we got rolled. We got rolled by a team that was not better than us in any form or fashion, and you got handled at home by a Michigan team that the only game that mattered to them was beating Ohio State, and it changed their year.
Yep.
And the coach,
and that's why you see it in rivalry games. I'm sorry, Mr. The rivalry games, the emotions are already high, so it's kind of that's why you only see the flag planting in this game, and that's why it means so much more. That's why you see it. You know, you're not going to see it. You know, middle of the year like Kentucky Vandy game, somebody playing a flag. People are like, where'd you even get that from? You know, that's why you only see it in these, and you've already got heightened emotions on both sides. So it's just kind of like the, you know, it's a boxing match, and they're holding up your hand, and you've won, and you walk over and do one last little sucker punch while the guy's not watching. That's why these things kind of to get to where they are. So that's what I say. I don't care about the flag play. I'm happy to get the win. If my team gets the win, I'm do that. Guess what? We'll be on Twitter. We'll be talking trash. Like this is the one point where you're just not going to have a whole lot of sportsmanship, because you actually do not like these people.
Yep. Nate's in the house. What's up, Blackhawks fan? He's here. Before we get on to our quick highlights from the NFL, and I do mean quick because I'm going to get into our predictions and our 5-pack so we can get everybody out of here. But just one thing, just to put this out here for the people that are listening and they're leaving comments, or those that are not leaving comments and listening. If you play any kind of sports, it's not an excuse, but if you play any kind of sports, you get the high that Shane was talking about of adrenaline, and everything's at fever pitch, and a lot of things happen that you may be like, wow, didn't mean for it to get that far. I'm saying, so for me, because I've experienced it and I've seen that, I just ask that we be careful about judging folks in the heat of that moment, not knowing it, not having experienced it, not understanding what it feels like to be in that spot. Let's just be real careful about what we say and how we critique it and how we judge it, because we don't know. And when you're in that spot, trust me, things happen you don't expect. So just bear that in mind. But we got some questions coming in. An NFL question here right off at the top. But quick thoughts on the week that was in the NFL. There was so much stuff that went down, man. I mean, there was with Atlanta 3 straight bad showings by Kirk Cousins, 4 interceptions. That's the most in 10 years. It's looking pretty bad. So it's a time for Penix there. KC, they squeaked by Las Vegas. We knew it'd be a tough game because Las Vegas beat them and played them real tough last year. And here we are. They barely made it by. Do you trust them in the playoffs? Then you got Green Bay, and then you got Chicago. It's so much stuff going on. So I don't know how much we can get totally out here, but we got a question from Nate regarding the Bears. So how do you feel about the Bears right now? I'll just say before these guys get into their comments about the NFL in the week that was, I personally feel like they have improved. I feel like especially Caleb, I think what he's doing is he's playing a lot smarter. I don't know if that's Thomas Brown's influence or not, or he's just learning from his mistakes. I really can't say. I'm not seeing enough games to tell you that part, but they're improving. Defensively, they're really still up and down, and I'm concerned about it, especially in this last stretch of games, because they're playing some teams that can really capitalize on that. And honestly, I'm not sure. I want to give you props and say, yeah, your Bears are doing great, and they're gonna do great things. But honestly, brother, I don't know.
Yeah, but they've lost 6 in a row, so they're not really improving. Yeah, I think their best move was firing their coach. Say what?
This is a growing year for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the early success kind of skewed what people thinks about them, as that's the problem. And now they're coming back to earth, and everybody's like, "Are they bad?" No, they just were never great, So
they do some nice things in game. They have some nice flashes. They're starting to use Keenan Allen finally, and he's been that last game Sunday. Keenan Allen went off, man. That's kind of what you're waiting for, with your so-called third quarterback. I mean, but no, Nate, it's going to be a while before they get a little better, man. But what are you guys' thoughts about? And anything jumped out from what I said? Atlanta, KC, Green Bay, Carolina, and Bryce Young. Anything jumps out that was like, wow, this was an awesome situation or awesome week? What do you have?
Well, I'll make mine quick hitters. One of my favorites was the Bengals losing again. When they score 33 points this year, I think they're 2-4. I don't even know how that's possible. Mm-hmm. You have the league leader in passing yards and the league leader in receiving yards, and you're still this bad. Like, I didn't know it was possible to get a defense that's bad, and somehow it's like for every touchdown Burrow throws, they have to give up 2. Like, I don't even understand how that's possible.
It's baffling, man. Isn't it? Baffling.
It's probably one of the crazier things I think I've seen.
And Zach Taylor being fired won't even solve that problem. That's the thing. That won't even fix it.
No.
He just be a scapegoat.
And to your tanking question, the Panthers and like the Jaguars are kind of doing it right now. Let's look competitive. Let's see if we have any pieces that we like and still lose close games. That's the way you tank. So, and can you tell the difference between tanking and just being a bad team? You really can't. So they're doing the best things. Let's look good. Let's see if we've got anything with our quarterbacks, and then let's still lose the game.
The Panthers were trying to win, man. I don't think they were doing.
I don't know. Yeah, and they're a bad team, so just kind of you can put it into the tank category, or just put it into the bad category. So, and my last quick hitter. You know, I love my boy Jameis, but this man threw for 6 touchdowns in this past game.
Yeah,
problem was 2 of them, Two of them weren't for your team. that's the problem, and that is the brilliance and the terribleness of Jameis Winston. You gotta love him. May the Lord please deliver him from pick sixes, as the man said.
Oh well, yeah. I want to bring that up. I wish I had the stat. It's on our Twitter page, man. If you guys get a chance and you're following us, you can see it right there. It's not hard to find. But he was talking about in an interview that he doesn't think that what we're seeing recently of interceptions is not indicative of the kind of quarterback that he is. Well, I remember him from Tampa Bay. I still got family out there. I remember him from New Orleans. So I said, you know what? I'm going to pull this stat up. This is what I pulled up right here. Now, if you look very carefully at the 4th and 5th column, you see under touchdowns and interceptions some really high numbers from 2015 leading up to now. 2020 was an anomaly, so we're just scratching that out. But we see a lot of a situation where not more interceptions than touchdowns, but it's still a very high number, way more than it needs to be. So this is you. And if you're talking about a split personality, this is different, Jameis. You've been cloned. It is you. He's been doing this in 2015 consistently. But I used him in one of my other fantasy leagues, so I was blessed. But he threw a lot of touchdowns and a whole lot of interceptions. So I don't know what he's talking about. But all right, Shane, what you got, brother?
Well, I think James meant that after LASIK surgery, that this was the big one. Because that was the big push, that he couldn't see anything after throwing for 5,000 yards. I heard the stat that Jameson had 686 yards of passing. The only problem is that 2 of those touchdowns went for the other team. But if you add it up, just an amazing throwing day for him.
Hey, real quick, sorry, Shane. I have to say this. I've never seen a pick six where a guy threw the interception and the DB intercepted it, laid around for a minute, pulled himself up, and then ran for I just don't know that I've seen that before. That was probably one of the funniest things, maybe ever for me. I was like, he's just taking a quick nap, stretched a little bit, and you see all the opposing coaches like, somebody go get him. He's like, nobody? Okay, got it. Yep. No problem. That's a Jameis interception if I've ever seen. Yeah.
What you got?
Sorry, Shane. My bad.
No. Like I said, that game was hilarious enough in the way it was, but I think Carolina again competing. I don't know how much that helps them, but it shows that they're going out there, and Bryce Young has some ability after really being torn apart for where he was mentally as well as skill wise. Mm-hmm. The game that stood out to me, like you're saying with Kansas City, the Raiders have talent that is just being wasted with not having a solid quarterback. And I think Antonio Pierce, this is going to be the last year. I think that locker room hasn't really gotten together. They've made bad decisions coaching-wise for a while now.
But also personnel-wise, that makes me wonder, is this all on him? And this is I honestly don't know, but come on, you went in there with what, O'Connell and the mustache as your 2 guys. That's just crazy to me to even start a season like that.
Yeah,
it's too soon. It's too soon to cut him up. In my opinion.
I don't think. Well, that's the thing. Like Herb just mentioned there. I don't think he's a problem. But the thing is, they're gonna go against him because Antonio Pierce is gonna keep saying like, hey, we need to step it up, and he takes people to task. And if your GM's not going to help you and get you a quarterback, then what can you do? But you're going to have Max Crosby goes 1,000% every single play. And he's looking across the board and going, how many other guys on my team can I say that do that right now?
Right.
And that's where the problem lies.
Yep.
You know, is that coaching? Is that GM? Like I said, I mean, Gruden got let go. You have Mayock that gets let go. They had Biaggi that came in that did a great job as special teams, fills in. He wins a bunch of games just like Pierce does. They let him go. You know, where does the buck end where you're going to decide like, hey, we need to make a stand? With Gardner Minshew and the other court, you know, AOC,
Aiden
like
O'Connell,
Aiden O'Connell. What are you doing? Like, you set yourself up for failure, especially when you go out and you draft a tight end. Like, you didn't think that was going to be important to throw him the ball. I mean, he's leading the league as a rookie tight end, and there's no one else on offense.
Yeah. And the problem I had with that one was they drafted a tight end like 2 years in a row. That's not how you get to success. Like, you hit on Brock, and obviously he's our favorite Georgia Bulldog of all time. But you shouldn't be even in a position where you're drafting a tight end 2 years in a row. And then, you held on to Devontae Adams too long, said that. And like I said, you just gave up on the quarterback position. And then you see a quarterback in your division doing better that you could have had. Like, you know what I mean? Without moving positions, you could have just had this guy. So it's just awful.
Well, for me, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
Well, just to wrap it up, Yusuf, the only thing I was going to say, like, Herb just brought it up, but you look at the Broncos right now. They've decided Bo Nix is going to be the man for them, and there's still games where he plays terrible, but he goes out there, and they know that he's the leader, and he's going to take shots to try to get him back. That's the difference right there. You can draft a quarterback and try to fight that, but they didn't make a move to get anybody. They didn't draft a quarterback that was quality. They didn't try to make a move. The best quarterback on your roster is now a 10% owner, and he's doing okay as a broadcaster. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, for me, I just got a lot of questions that came out of last week because we talked about Denver. There's probably 2 games in the wild card, but they had a defensive meltdown that to me was concerning. I'm like, you play against a team that has a high-powered offense, like a Chiefs or maybe the Chargers may not be the best example, like a Ravens team, you're going to be in trouble. I had a question about Philly, wondering if they're for real. I mean, they started off real slow, but they're slow starters on offense, even with their recent purge, I guess. Well, I'm lacking words tonight, guys. Sorry. But they had the lowest first quarter points in the entire NFL. So I'm wondering about what's up with that. Talked about Bryce Young a little bit ago. Heading in the right direction. I saw some real nice flashes. I'm like, if you put the right pieces around him, which they have not done up to now, you might have something there. You mentioned Burrow Herb a little earlier. He's having one of his best career seasons. I mean, his numbers, he's almost hitting 5,000 yards all the time. So that means he's throwing a lot, which kind of says a lot. When Chase Brown's still running in for 1 or 2 touchdowns a game, but he's still throwing for 5,000 yards almost. He's throwing a lot. So I wonder if you can salvage this because he's having one of his best years and you can get nothing out of it. And they still haven't solved the trenches issue. We talked about it ad nauseum on this show. They still haven't solved that. And then they hit to Trevor Lawrence with Aziz Al-Shahir. It's like, I'm hearing 3 games. I'm like, wow, it feels light to me. I'm like, this man got laid out. You know what I'm saying? So 3 games, that's it. So that's what they're talking about. But just so much stuff going on, man, in the league, man, which makes it fun. Give us something to talk about. My Giants, I won't spend too much time there, but no interceptions in the last 11 games. No. You think they're going to get somebody in the draft on defense? It's academic. They might take it with the number 1 pick. That's embarrassing. But there's just so much stuff going on, man. I think, is it time for Penix? That's my other question, man, because Cousins are looking rough right now.
You know, that was
I'm
my
like,
hot take at the beginning of the year, was that he would get some starts.
Yeah, but I think your number was a little bit higher than this. It wasn't like week 14. You said something like week 8, week 9. I think you said something like that. We in week 14. Now I'm like, this is a long time. I didn't think he'd go this far into the season, to be honest with you. Especially not a whole season, but it's going to, wow, it might be time for that, man. But all right, let's jump into our predictions, man, because we got a little bit of time left before everybody got to cut out. And then our 5-pack poll, which is a monster this week. Good job, how you heard it. This 5-pack poll is going to be a gut punch for all of us. But I love it, though. It's fun, though. We'll break it down once we get to that, guys. But as far as the predictions, so up tonight, TNF, the Green Bay Packers at Detroit Lions. I think we got the Lions at -3.5. Honestly, this is the kind of game. This is that kind of game where it's like the Lions are supposed to win it, but they don't win it. It feels like that kind of game, and I'm playing with house money here. I got nothing to lose, so I'm gonna go ahead and go what I think. I'm going with the Packers tonight.
Yeah.
What do you guys have? Packers, Lions.
I'm going Lions because I always go with my heart, but the line is that way for a reason. You know, if you get good Jordan Love tonight, no interceptions, like this is going to be a tough one for him. And I think they got 13 players injured on defense for the Lions. Like you're fielding the whole team that's just sitting on the sideline. So yeah, but I'm picking Lions. I always pick Lions.
That's all right. Chill.
I'm going with the Lions as well. I think, like Herb said, I think it's going to be a shootout, though. I think this could be a real high-scoring game, like you said, with as many people injured on Detroit's defense as they have. I also think that Detroit wants to prove a point, and they're going to try to score as many points as they could. You get Green Bay. They've had some tough weather games the last few weeks to get back inside a dome. I think it's going to help them, too. So I think it's a high-scoring one, but I think the Lions pull it out.
All right. And just before we move on, we got some questions in the comments that we didn't forget them. We see them. We're going to jump at the end of the show. Your question, Nate and Chris, your question, we're going to grab those. And then the questions that come through, we get them. So no worries. Hold on a little bit. All right, Jets to Dolphins. I'm going Dolphins here. And the points. So
you know I'm going Dolphins.
Of course.
And I'm picking against the Jets.
I'm assuming that Rodgers. I'm assuming Rodgers taking the Dolphins as well.
Yeah.
I ain't picking the Jets in this season or any other season going forward. So I doubt that's going to change. All right. So Falcons at Vikings. Ooh, tough one. I don't like how Darnold is playing. I'm going to Vikings, though.
Yeah.
How about you guys? Same?
I agree with you 100%.
All right.
Yep.
Same with my team. So I'm going Saints here. Go ahead and pencil that in. They're going to have about 90 touchdowns against our team. So no big deal there. Saints defense is going to be out of control on Sunday afternoon. So you guys got Saints as well? Or one of you crazy guys picking the Giants to win this game?
I'm picking the Saints, but it's not. I don't have a whole lot of faith in them. I wouldn't be shocked if Drew Lock still runs for 2 touchdowns somehow and the Giants pull it out.
Oh, gosh. There's people in Twitter saying, please, Drew Lock, don't mess this up for us. That's all I see is Twitter, please, saying, please don't mess this up for us. I mean, you think he could? Think he can mess up our draft situation?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
He's playing for a job still.
Yeah, and the Saints are bad.
Yeah, their defense has not been great. All right, Panthers at Eagles. I'm going Eagles here. I'm not going to try to overthink this. I'm going Eagles. You guys shaking your head? I'll take it as agreement. Browns at Steelers. I'm going Steelers here, even though offensively, they still can't seem to. Well, last week was an anomaly. They had a lot of offense last week, but
that was an anomaly. That was a Bengals. They got bangled.
No defense.
That should not happen.
7-on-7 game.
That's how you know something's wrong, man. Because they've been scoring like 18 points all year. All of a sudden, they just went. That alone, of course, Zach Taylor his job, but no, he still works there. He's still hired. All right, Raiders at the Bucks.
I feel like Bucks, I guess.
Oh man, yeah.
Brock Bowers is going to go for 200 yards, and they're still going to lose.
7-point favorite, huh? O'Connell's not bad, as long as you stay in the pocket. It's the other stuff. Oh, I'm going Bucks here too. Mike Evans is probably going to go off and probably going to make the difference in this game too. And Bucky Irvin is injured for you guys that are doing fantasy, so he may not be. He might not be at full tilt So just something to think about. Jaguars at Titans. This is tougher than it looks. I'm gonna go Titans because I think Westbrook and Kine and Ridley going to win all over these guys. I don't know the Jacksonville defense is going to be able to stop these guys. You guys got Titans as well. We just going across the board with a consensus, huh? All right.
Yep.
Seahawks at Cardinals. Whew. I got a pause there. Let you guys go first. I'm not sure here.
I think I went Seahawks in this one, but it was really like a coin flip. Like, I don't know what I'm getting out of Geno Smith half the times. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to be consistent for the entire game. So it's like I went with the Seahawks just to pick something opposite because it feels like a game the Cardinals should win. So,
Jane.
I mean, I agree with Herb on this one. Although I'm going to go Cardinals because I worry more about the Seahawks falling apart. The Cardinals are going to score. It just depends on what's going to happen on the backside. They have not looked great in their last couple of games where you thought they had an opportunity to step up.
Yep. And take that division. That's what shocks me, you know? Like, this was it. It's there for the taking. San Francisco's done, you know? Like, no one else is playing consistent. But
I'm going to just go with Vegas here and go with the Cardinals. That 3 points says a lot about this game. But, yeah, okay. All right, Bills and Rams. I'm going Bills. That's pretty easy for me, unless the Bills just totally choke it up. But I'm going Bills. You guys, Shane, you got Bills too?
Yeah.
Bills.
All right.
I do think the Rams defense is playing better. But I think the Bills right now are riding a wave. So
yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Bears at Niners. The Niners at -4. I don't know.
This one is like tougher than you think. You know what I mean? Like,
now I like the running back that's play. I've watched him when Mason and McCaffrey was out. Garendo, he got some spice. He got spice, man. I like him, but it's like, and Purdy's healthy, so they got competency back at quarterback again. I'm gonna go with Niners here. Can't trust the Bears, but all that I've been seeing, I'm gonna just go with the known. At least I know what the Niners are and what they're not. So, how about you guys? Bears or Niners? Who you got?
I went Niners just because I don't believe in Bears. Sorry, Shane. My bad.
No, I was gonna. So I'm going Bears, and I don't believe in them. But George Kittle gave the best non-committal, I don't know what's going on with this team answer ever when they asked him, George, you had one catch. Were you covered after that? And he goes, no, I feel like I was pretty much open. They didn't go back to you. Yep. No, I don't have an answer for that. Like that was him not trying to bury his coach, but also being up front. And the 49ers are in disarray. Like, do I think it's all on them? Have the injuries certainly hurt them? Yes. Did you plan on McCaffrey coming back and then getting hurt? I think it's tough for them, but if you're the Bears, this is the time to get a victory where you can say, like, hey, we beat them. And then down the road, no one's going to talk about how injured and how terrible San Francisco played this year. You just count it as a victory.
They've got too much star power for anybody else in the league to feel sorry for them when somebody gets hurt. And what's a guy like Kittle supposed to say? No, I was never open for the rest of the game, so it's okay. They never threw me the ball. Like, what is he supposed to say at this point? Sometimes reporters will just try to set you up.
Exactly, and that's why I think it's a great statement for him because he knew that was a setup question, and he knew, look, I'm going to answer it because it's who I am. I'm honest with the people that are around, but you have somebody like George Kittle where he's a weapon, and they're talking about all these other things, and his production's down, and it's not like he's leading the league in drops. It's not that, but like we're trying to figure out problems right now. And instead of going back to what had worked for us and some of our better players, we're not doing that right now. And San Francisco is paying for it.
Yep.
That's fair.
Shout out to me, though, because I was playing against Kittle, and he was the last person I had to survive for fantasy that night. And I was like, I actually went online to look. I was like, is he hurt? Like, what is going on
in the second?
Yeah. I saw him walk off the field. I thought he was hurt, too. So, Chargers at Chiefs for the Sunday night game. They got Chiefs at -4. I hate this, man, because there's some games the Chiefs shouldn't even be winning, but they still win them anyway. the Chargers offense was more high powered, and I could see something happening. It's gonna be a tough one. I'm gonna just go with the Chiefs here because I don't know what else to do.
I took the Chargers.
I like the Chargers a bit more in this situation.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Chargers.
I picked the Chargers. In my pick 'em, I took the Chargers. I feel like if the Chiefs are going to fall, this is a prime game to do it. You know the Chargers are never going to be out of this game. So you just trust Herbert to make a little magic at the end there, or the running game to get going a little bit. But they're not getting blown out. So I feel like the Chiefs have been, you look at the Raiders I feel like the Chargers can get them. So I went Chargers.
All right, Shane, what you got?
I wasn't going to pick the Chiefs, so I agree with what you guys have said to make this a three-peat on that one. But
I sure hope we're texting this game is going on. I hope we're texting.
I've always picked the Chiefs. You know this. I'm not a Michigan man, but I'm a Harbaugh man, and I think that he will have that team ready. Like Herb said, if you have a Kansas City team where you have a shot to go after them, this is the type of team that can go after them. Yep. They're gonna control the ball. They're not gonna give it up. Maybe Herbert pulls something off where he has a great game and makes some miraculous play, and that's all you need to push him over. The Chiefs have gotten lucky with getting out for it, and it's because they're a good team. You can say luck, but they've won a game. They know what to do. Spagnuolo will, continue to play his defense. But if you're the Chargers and you can get some rushing touchdowns and control the ball, Kansas City has some weaknesses. And it's their offensive tackles. So if you can turn up the defense for the Chargers and come after Mahomes, I think this is a game they can win.
Yep.
All right. And the Monday night game, Bengals at Cowboys. Surprisingly, I'm picking the Bengals here.
Yeah.
They're already
if there was ever a chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they light them up.
They got
don't feel like Cooper Rush is going to keep up. Yeah.
They got so much talent. How could you not? I can name so many guys that are super talented on their team. I'm like, how could you not just beat people up?
Well, and Herb brought up the stat before. They're 0-2 in games where they scored over 35 points. I think this is a game they score over 35 and they finally get a victory out of it.
Yeah. No, they're like 2-4 when they scored 30. But some of those have been like the Panthers and somebody else. But you have like 2 Ravens losses. You have to steal. I don't see how that's even possible. If you give me 33, 35 points, that should be an automatic victory.
Well, the two that, like you said, the two they won was they beat the Panthers, 35-6, and you shut them out. Anytime where the other team is going to score more than a touchdown, they're in trouble now because they're not stopping anybody.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, now that I know that Joe Burrow has bought a Batmobile, he's got to score touchdowns.
Yeah, you have no choice.
No touchdown. I mean, when your conversation is, I'm not going to get that Batmobile for a year, but how cool is that I have a Batmobile? I got you, Joe Burrow. Let's put it to Jerry Jones because he probably bought one of those Batmobiles too. So you might as well put the score up on him.
Oh, brother. All right. I think we answered Carissa's question. I think for the most part, who will win? The why? I don't think that Detroit's running game's been looking good lately, the past 2 or 3 games. I think it's going to be a factor in it. If it's not changed, it's going to be a factor in this game. But I just kind of feel like Packers got more healthy people on this side. They got more help on their side. I think that's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to be up for this game too, and I think they're going to win this split. All right, so we got a question from Nate regarding Jackson State. We'll hit that real quick, and then we jump to our 5-pack, and we're out of here. Honestly, man, they've been looking good. They're first in the SWAC. I don't know if I can credit Dion for that. I'm not quite sure that's what you were thinking about, but I don't know if Dion is the reason why this is happening. But right. I mean, they're first in the division. I mean, I'm sure that helped the morale boost and and people wanting to play there. I guess honestly, I don't know enough about it. They're kind of a little far down the food chain, college football wise for me. So I don't know. I don't even get to see too many Jackson State's games out here. So, you guys got any thoughts on Jackson State? Any overall feelings about it?
No. You kind of hit on there. We don't get many of their games to kind of see what's going on there. So apologies on that question. No disrespect intended, but we just don't get to see it.
All right. Well,
disrespect on that last question though. He said Jacksonville looks like they could seek a wild card. That had to be something else.
I I put it up on the screen so you guys can see it.
No, I mean it's just I just felt like I had missed something when I saw that one.
I didn't know if that was okay. Jacksonville, the Jaguars. Okay, I didn't know what we were talking about. Okay, it's cool. All right, so our 5-pack, let me go ahead and get everybody out of here. All right, so our 5-pack, you know how we go. We have fun with it every single week. But we got 5 teams randomly chosen and 5 categories, which are pretty solid. First category is win your division. Second category is last place in your division. Third category is a Super Bowl in 3 years. Fourth is a full rebuild. And the fifth is the first round exit. Now, remind me of my own game. I forgot one thing. Is it being in a Super Bowl in the next 3 years or actually winning one?
I always did it as being in the Super Bowl in 3 years.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Thank you. So being not winning it, but being in a Super Bowl in the next 3 years. Good. So win division, last place in the division, Super Bowl in 3 years, or being in one, full rebuild, and of course the last one, the first round playoff exit. And the team that were chosen very diabolically by our own Herb, Tennessee Titans, Carolina Panthers, Las Vegas Raiders, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Cleveland Browns. And Ben, so he said, man, he thinking like you now, because I'll be doing this crazy stuff, trying to stump us. And it's like I stumped myself because now I don't know where we're going. Who's going first so we can take the last few minutes to get out of here, man. So what you got? Who first? Who's the bold, brave?
We'll go to Shane first. I want to hear Shane's.
I'll go first. I will say on most of these 5-packs, I normally am pretty chalk, but these teams made it difficult for me. So
there's no chalk.
So with the wins of division, and this is because they're in a weaker division, I put that the Panthers have the ability to do that. They're
only 3 games out of first. They're the only team out there that actually has a shot, as bad as it is.
Exactly. Titans, I think, are going to be dead last. For the Super Bowl in 3 years, we've just talked about where their main issue is and maybe a coaching change. I went with the Raiders out of this crazy pack. Full rebuild is the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence getting hurt. I think some other things are going to happen in that area. I think that they're up for a rebuild. And then the first round exit, I put with the only team that's won some games this year, and that's going to be the Browns.
I love it. Oh,
this one was one of the difficult ones because it's like, man, who am I even going to say is going to make the Super Bowl? I don't even know if some of these guys are going to be able to buy tickets, let alone actually have the team there.
Oh, my goodness. This is a tough one. You were saving yours for last, man?
Yeah, I'll save mine for last.
I don't even care if it's I'm just trying to just get through it. But I got for the first round exit, I got Cleveland for the first round exit. Yeah. Despite how things looking, these guys are actually playing pretty decent. The defense, if it was as elite as they started off the season with, they'd be in a conversation for something a lot more than what they probably going to end up having for the season. So I got them in the first round exit. I got a full rebuild for Las Vegas. I mean, honestly, they just dancing around it. This got to happen. I'm not sure if Connell's going to be out or not because I kind of like him to some degree, but it's time to start reshaping some things on their team. For the Super Bowl in 3 years, I got Tennessee. Out of the options that are left, I don't know who else I could pick. I feel like Levis is starting to figure some stuff out. It's a little later than people wanted him to figure it out, but rookie quarterback, get the guy a break, right? Something went on his side anyway, schematically. But I think that out of the teams that are here, this team could potentially do that. I like Westbrook kind. I like Ridley over there. Their running situation, I'm not a big fan of Spears. They could fix that.
Pollard has actually plays well at times. It's just not consistent with the team. But yeah, I'm with you.
We need somebody to kind of bounce off of him, like kind of like lightning kind of bit. If you have that consistency at tight end, they got a guy who has an African name. I think it's Ogangwo. I don't want to mess it up. But
I know you're talking about. Yes.
If he's the one, this team is heading in the right direction. So out of these choices here, they may have the best chance to be able to do that. Jacksonville got them in last place, man. I mean, come on. Probably the most expensive team in the league, and look where you're at. Not money well spent. And then Carolina, I have them winning the division because that's all that's left. Go ahead, Herb, man.
I think we have the same one, because I went first by look. I cheated on the win of the division one. The Panthers are the only one that's even got a shot at it realistically. And realistically in this universe, so that's why I went with them. Last I gave to the Jags, just how bad this season has been. I don't even, and I agree with oh god, I don't want to forget his name, but they should have never put Trevor Lawrence back out there. Especially banged up. I don't get the point of it. That was just let him rest for us here. Raiders in the rebuild. You basically have like two pieces, like maybe one offensive, one defensive to build around. You've got nothing else, so definitely in the rebuild. The Browns, Jameis, if the Lord delivers him from pick sixes and they make a slight little run to at least get the playoff spot, because I think the bottom of the AFC is kind of weak anyway, so you could see that. And so that just left me with the Titans. Like you said, if Levis figures it out, they've actually spent some money on the offensive skill positions lately, so there's enough there. Plus, if this is the group I'm going for, the Titans had to be it. So
that was my 5-pack. It was fun. Well, Shane, the bar's been set, my friend. If I was you, I'm not telling you what to do, brother. But before we get off air, I would just say, lovingly as a friend and a brother, I would get my game up and get my 5-pack ready. Because Herb took us to another stratosphere. You can't be sitting on the sideline, my man.
I took y'all to another level, but it wasn't up here. It was.
I ain't gonna get the job done. It's time for you to go to work.
There's not 4 more trash teams for me to take. I feel like I'm gonna have to go the exact opposite and pick the power teams where we feel bad about having to say that one of them is gonna have to rebuild.
Yes, I like it. I like where your head's at.
All you got to do. I've done it with the middle of the pack teams and the high echelon teams, and it's challenging either way. Just have fun with it, man. But your time is coming. It's coming real quick. But wherever you are and however you're here in T3, thank you again for joining us. We had fun. We're going to have a whole lot of fun heading into 2025. I think we got maybe one more show left this year. I think it's probably going to be on the 19th. I think it is. We'll send some show stuff out on our Twitter pages and Facebook and let you guys know when you see us again. But have a great night. Enjoy TNF. I'm picking the Packers. They got the Lions. Let's see what happens. Have fun, guys.